This is a commonly accepted scenario of how life on Earth began. Essential elements combined to form a kind of primordial soup. The mixture was then energized by lightning, and an elementary life form appeared. This life eventually evolved into all of the known species. To many people, it seems that, given enough time, life could have arisen in this way, but few comprehend the complexity of even the simplest components of life. In a widely reported instance, Sir Fred Hoyle, the noted British astronomer, calculated the probability of a simple enzyme essential to life arising by chance at 1 in 10 to the 40,000th power, which is 10 followed by 40,000 zeros. To even begin to grasp how small this possibility is, realize there are only 10 to the 80th power atoms in the entire universe. Hoyle arrived at such an incomprehensibly large number because he understood the intricate makeup of those enzymes. In a metaphor he devised, Hoyle portrayed the problem in a way more understandable to most of us. He said there is more chance of a tornado sweeping through a junkyard and assembling a shiny new 747 than there is of life arising by chance. To further reinforce our point, let's look at a part of living things we've all heard of, the chromosome. The letters on this sheet of paper represent the chromosome of one of the smallest viruses known, and stand for the 4 nucleotides: cytosine, adenine, guanine, and thymine. The nearly 6,000 nucleotides shown here must be in precise order and exact number for the virus to function properly. If you move slightly up the scale of life to the E. coli bacteria, representing its chromosome would require 2,000 pages filled with these letters. Placed side by side, they would encircle a football field 1.5 times. And the base sequence for human DNA would fill 1 million of these pages, enough to stretch 125 miles from Los Angeles to San Diego, California. To appreciate the difficulty of 6,000 nucleotides lining up perfectly by chance, consider the illustration of how long it would take a monkey randomly pounding away at a typewriter to type just the first sentence of the Gettysburg Address, which, by the way, contains only 147 letters. We'll even be generous. Let's say there are 1 trillion monkeys, and they can each type 1,000 words per second. Not only would the typewriters experience meltdown, but it would take 20 trillion years. And a lot of typewriter ribbons to accomplish the task. Evolutionists put the age of the Earth at only 4.5 billion years. If one sentence of a speech couldn't be knocked out in 4.5 billion years, how could all we see have happened by chance in that same period of time? Francis Crick, winner of the Nobel Prize as a co-discoverer of the structure of DNA, recognized that even the simplest life forms are divided into kingdoms, each distinct from the others since earliest times. He reasoned there just isn't enough time for all these different complex forms to have evolved from a single source. Besides complexity, there is the problem of chemical evolution. That is, how chemicals like carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, iron, and nitrogen became alive. This is a mystery so baffling, Crick gave up on it altogether and wrote a book suggesting aliens in some remote part of the galaxy sent life forms here. Many laugh at Crick's idea, but is it any less believable than life happening by chance? There is another possible explanation of how life on Earth came about, one that squares more with the facts. We will explore it in part 2 of this series. Until then, think about what you've just seen and ask yourself the question, where do I believe life came from?